Hey guys, welcome back. Tisha here, back with another chapter read of Give Me Back My Children by Sarah Allred. We do not have much further to go. And I said it on our last video. I already have what our next book is going to be. I've had it for about a month, if I'm being honest. Yeah. He got it for me a month ago, and I have yet to read it. I was a little irritated with the way that Amazon sent it because my book, I'm funny about my books, and the cover is supposed to be a hardcover, but it's a hardcover with the paper, and the paper is a little jacked up. But I'm going to save it and show you what it is at the end. We're going to build the suspense of that. But until we get to that, let me go ahead and get to this, which is what you all are currently here for. Go ahead and like the video as we begin chapter 24, The Choice. This is 2010. I continue to push my daughter's kidney surgery. If the leadership wouldn't sanction it, I needed to find another way, and Medicaid was my best hope. South Dakota refused the Medicaid plan. As the UEP stated, the church was responsible for caring for their followers. It was the first time I heard details about the UEP trust. It was like pulling teeth to get help from them. Sarai got a new infection and her health struggled. I was frustrated. When I approached someone about it, they said they were waiting for the prophet's permission. The first presidency came to the land frequently, and we'd have a service. Because our community was small, they had time to visit people. I requested a visit and told them my situation. The first presidency turned to Richard and said, "Make it happen. Don't let money stand between getting this girl taken care of." Wow, I'm surprised. I knew talking to the first presidency would prove successful because the first counselor had a family member with dialysis since she was a teenager. With the agreement to pay, I went ahead and made an appointment with Dr. Lewis at Primary Children's Hospital in Salt Lake City, Utah. Crazy thing is, this cult had a lot of money before it got tied up with the whole thing with Warren Jeffson. They froze some stuff, and even then they still didn't find everything. They had a lot of money, so they could afford to pay for this. My 8-year-old daughter finally got the surgery she needed. She was having problems with her kidneys since she was 4. 4 years later, she finally gets a surgery, or I shouldn't even say that. They finally do something about it. What's going on with Rich? For the last 2 months, he seemed to go out of his way to avoid us. It wasn't just with me, it was with everyone. I prayed to find the answer. Had I done something to displease the Lord? Had Rich? It started when he disappeared for 3 days without a word. Stranger is, he went alone. I assumed it was to R17. The surgery did wonders because I was pregnant again and feeling great. I didn't need to be on bed rest. Rich had a long and private phone conversation when he emerged. He gathered us together for mother's class. We were all sober. Ladies, you all have questions on your mind. What's up with Rich? I know because each one of you have asked me several times. I was covenanted not to reveal why until we were commanded to tell our families. The Lord has commanded that no more children be brought into this wicked world, and he's starting with the 9 men he called to accept and live a celibate life. It will purify and prepare us for the heavenly blessing awaiting us when the prophet is delivered. We must prepare for the millennial reign when the Lord delivers his prophet and his people. It's been difficult to treat you all this way, but my salvation depends on it. And when the Lord commands, we obey with no hesitancy. There is more to life than physical desires. It pains me to see you suffer, but I'm relieved to be allowed to tell you. If this is spoken to anyone outside of our family, it is punishable by death. Don't even speak of it amongst yourselves. This is the Lord's commandment, spoken through our holy prophet. My whole desire is to please and serve him. My arms wrapped around my tummy as the news hit my ears. Is this the last child I will ever bring to this earth? What is my purpose after this? What? What is her purpose after she can't give birth? This is crazy. But I got to remind myself, that's what they're taught they're here for. Ever since I was a child, I've been told the calling of a woman is to bring forth children. I enjoyed being in my husband's arms and feeling his kisses. However, in many ways, I was relieved. I never cared for intercourse. She never cared for intercourse. What? What? I'm not trying to laugh at her situation. She never cared for it, which makes me feel like Rich didn't know what he was doing. It was painful, okay. It was more of a spiritual connection for me. None of us looked at each other. None of us dared to ask what this meant for the future. Were the destructions we'd been expecting for so many years finally coming about? What did this all mean? Thinking it over, I had it good. I was 6.5 months along. Mara was 4.5. My thoughts immediately turned to Julie, who began to weep. She'd been trying to get pregnant for a while. Her youngest was 2. She was a good mom, devoted to her children and patient. I knew how much she wanted a baby. A tear rolled down my cheek, not for myself, but for my sister wife, Julie. I wanted to wrap my arms around my cousin, but more importantly, Richard needed to comfort her, my cousin. Sisters and cousins, that's a lot of what these dynamics are. Is relatives marrying relatives to keep the bloodline pure. Celibacy took getting used to. Though kisses were easy to get rid of, for the past 2 months, Rich kissed like a fish to avoid having feelings which displeased the Lord. The next few months passed. I gratefully brought little Louisa. Oh, yeah, Louisa. Why is she these old names? Into the world. I wonder if the prophet named her kids too, or she was able to pick her own names. Just a thought. She was precious and full of sunshine. She was a comfort to my heart. I was 30 years old, had been married for 12 years, and gave birth to 6 children. Now I needed to work hard so my family couldn't live without me. It couldn't possibly get any colder than negative 13 degrees. I've been shoveling a mere 10 minutes and was an icicle. In times like this, I remembered Rich as a dutiful husband who had always took out the trash. Now he was above all that. I had at least 10 more feet left. I was a nursing mom with a 2-month-old baby. If I stayed out here long, I'd be no good to anyone. I shoveled the last scoop and scurried into the house. I warmed myself by the fire someone built into a raging inferno. My fingers started to get their filling back when the door was thrown open and a cold draft interrupted my unthawing. Rich walked in. Meet me in the living room immediately. The family gathered quick. Rich picked up the phone and dialed. Hello, sir. We are all gathered and you are on speakerphone. Can everyone hear me? It was Mark Sullivan. Mark had been called to Texas for the last couple of months. He was a witness to the signing of the Lord's revelations and the judgment upon the nation. I have been commanded to deliver a message from our holy prophet. I will expect a response before midnight tonight. This is the crap that I'm talking about with the manipulation that goes on in this thing, that you're sitting here and you're calling these people to hurry up and come in here so you can reprimand them and tell them to admit to something that they probably didn't even do. What now? Chills ran up my spine. A sinking feeling told me our lives were about to change. The word of the Lord to my son, Rich Allred, and family. The Lord has worked with you tirelessly, but you still are found to be holding on to jealous and bad feelings. I will give you a deadline to become perfectly one so you can be worthy of my presence. My son Rich and his family will be an example to those on my holy land, R23. You have your secret combinations, and in your heart you are not one with your husband. What more did I have to give? My head began to swim and my heart pounded in my chest. There must be an atonement made for this sin. Let my son Richard and his family humble themselves and accept this requirement. If you choose to decline, the results will be eternal. Your husband will be stripped of all priesthood power and authority. He will deliver you to the bufferings of Satan, and you will never be free of the torments of hell and damnation. You must decide who in the family needs to leave to humble themselves and repent for their sins. Here he goes separating them again because he can. Let the decisions be made and be off the land by midnight tonight, or the Lord will visit my land with utter destruction. I purposely wouldn't do it to see what would happen. Because at this point, all the other prophecies that he supposedly had didn't come to pass. So let's see what happens if we don't send somebody off this land by midnight. But that's why I'm not a part of this, because I would get everybody in trouble. The call ended and Rich stood up. I'll be at a tower till my shift ends at midnight. Then I'll be back to escort those who need to go off the land. Use this time to search your soul, and make the choice to save our family. I want to see Lizzie at the tower. Then after, I want to talk to Janetta, Sarai, and Brianna. With that, he was gone. My children and I went to my room. I felt relieved to know I did everything to please the Lord. It wasn't me or my children who had to leave. I didn't think too much of why Rich wanted to talk to Sarai and Janetta. An hour and a half later, Natalie knocked on my door and said she was supposed to take Janetta and Sarai to Richard. Mara brought me the phone a half an hour later. Hello, I wanted to thank you, Rich said. I know you do anything for me and the family. This is where, and this is how, he always gets her to do something that she doesn't really want to do by sweet talking her and saying some crap like that. So let's see what it is. Chills crept up my spine and wrapped around my heart. I talked with Sarai and Janetta, and I wanted to thank you for raising my girls with the desire to please me. They have chosen to go, and I'm sure you'll make the decision to stand firm in your calling as an example to my family. The Lord trusts you will never waver in your devotion. They chose to go, or you made them feel like they had to go because how y'all make them feel like everything is guilty. This is some crap. I hung up the phone knowing what I must do, but not okay with it. At least I could take all my children. That's what mattered. This was real. Rich had corrected the second counselor, and he no longer had his family and was in open shame before the people. He gave me less than an hour to pack for me and my 6 children. I wanted to take everything, so nothing was left for them to take. Rich came to see us off and said the boys needed to stay. He always has to find a way to make sure that she's punished. The Lord will see your sacrifice and you'll be back before they notice you're gone. We were whisked off to our next repentance mission. We settled in a room of my father-in-law's large home in Short Creek, but we were soon corrected. Do not dwell under the same roof as the former family of Dean Allred. There is great wickedness in the home, and the Lord will judge them for their wrongs. If Sarah and her children are in the home, they will be tainted with their sins. Because she enjoys being in that space, and she loves her father-in-law, and they love her. We want to make sure that she's punished, so she can't be in a place where she and her kids will be happy. That's what that is. If Sarah and her children are in the home, they will be tainted with their sins. Cut all earthly ties in order to focus on the redemption of Zion. The Lord will not rest until Sarah's children are back in my land of refuge, R23. So the Lord isn't going to rest because of Sarah and her kids. When there's all these other people on earth that he needs to be worried about, because let them tell it, us Gentiles, even though, we know what that was, we're all in trouble. So just people. I felt like I was being stabbed in my heart. I learned to love this family as my own. Dean Allred and his family were known for their devotion and loyalty to leadership. The entire community loved them. What was wrong with my family? About 2 weeks into our apprentice mission. Rich called me without warning and said someone was coming to pick up the children, but not me. Wasn't she going in the first place because of the kids? Now all of a sudden the kids can come home, but she can't? Rich, I will not. I cannot let you take my children. You don't consider what you're asking. This takes the life from me. This is a command from God himself. Would you defy the Lord? Rich had a voice of command. You know the consequences of this action. Rich can go to hell. I just don't. I get it that these people were brought up in a cult and they believe this time and time again. It's just so cruel that I just can't wrap my mind around it. You ask me to do the impossible again. Why does this keep happening to me? Why is Uncle Warren determined I not mother my own children? My voice wasn't soft. My world was being ripped from under me and my limits were maxed. I wanted to run and hide with my children, but knew it was a wicked thought, and I couldn't if the boys were with their father. Sarah, the cruel voice broke through my thoughts. I'm here because I sacrificed for you. I did this so you could have us. How can you turn around and do this to me? Don't make this harder than it has to be. I cannot, I will not let you take Violet or Louisa. My voice was cold and stubborn. I will not. The phone went silent, and I wondered if he hung up on me. Had I blown it? Was my demand going to come back and bite me? I didn't know, but I wouldn't back down. I held my breath. I'll leave the younger girls with you, but the prophet said he specifically wanted Janetta and Sarai. Their ride will arrive within the hour, and they better be ready. They'll be with me, and I'll take good care of them. You will move as well to an undisclosed place where you'll stay until you're called back home. You didn't take care of them before. You let the sister wives abuse them and mistreat them and have the girl who was having Sarai kidney problems suffer and vomit and have fevers and all those other things. But she's supposed to believe that you're going to take good care of her kids. Yeah, right. A close family friend and his wife came to take my children. It was a tearful goodbye. I struggled to keep my composed on the outside as I fell into pieces on the inside. I think she meant to say composure. I kept reminding myself this was a test. My sacrifice would be rewarded. They moved me in the night a few blocks down in a triplex next to Warren Jeff's new mansion where he lived when he's delivered from prison. Ain't gonna happen, so the mansion will always be barren. I wasn't the only person taken to the two-bedroom triplex in Short Creek. Lizzie was taken there too. Rich said we needed to learn how to get along. Lizzie held deep-seated hatred for me, and my feelings towards her weren't kind either. When I looked at Lizzie, I saw deceit and cruelty. Because as I said, and as some of you all said in the comment section, we think she's the one who was being abusive towards her kids. Excuse me. She'd be the one person when people saw her and another person entirely when she believed no one was watching. She was cruel to the children who weren't hers and blamed my children for everything her children did. I tried to love her, but deep down, I could barely stand her. At first, I denied the anger in hopes it would disappear, but instead, I put my feelings in the same box as my feelings towards my mother, a box I never defined. Now, Rich forced us to look at the problem. I determined to get to the bottom of this ocean of feelings so I could return to my children. I'm sorry for the pain you're going through, missing the children. I know that feeling all too well. It may be easy for you, but for some of us, it isn't, Lizzie said curtly. You think this is easy for me? How dare you say that? Hot anger exploded as memories of the separations flashed before my mind. Taking a deep breath, I tried to control my anger and tried again. How is it ever easy for a mother to be separated from her children? Lizzie got up from the couch and picked up her 9-month-old baby. I started speaking in hopes to stop her. What do you have against me? Her lips disappeared and she pressed them together. Her jaw clenched. She turned and stared straight out the window. At least I didn't go against the prophet and keep my kids. There was hate in her eyes. She had her own box for me. This would be next to impossible. I needed to fight these demons whether I wanted to or not. This held me back from having all the blessings I lived for my entire life. I was thankful I had Violet and Louisa. I stayed busy with them, but missed my other kids. At least Rich let me talk to them on the phone now and then. They were growing up so fast. On Richard's birthday, Violet sang him a cute song over the phone, and sometimes we had class with the family. My relationship with my children was a long distance one, but it was better than nothing. Chapter 25. Not on my life. Oh boy. We were forbidden to leave, but they never locked the gates, and I had a phone. I knew my sister's number. When I couldn't stand it any longer, I dialed the number and slipped out the gate. The row of triplexes was encircled by a 10-foot wall with 2 sliding gates on the southeast and northeast sides. Listen to that description, because we've heard about the gates, not just in her book, but in her fellow sister wives' book. And one thing remains clear. These people are like trapped. They're in prisons of their own. The southwest side had small gates open to the new mansion Warren Jeffs had made for himself to live in when he would be delivered from prison. On the northwest side was the storehouse. My neighbors were in similar situations, having gone to Zion and been sent back to Short Creek. No one wanted to face the shame we had over our heads. Each person prayed to be shown what kept us from returning. The new year began not feel so new anymore. I wondered when I'd return and refused to entertain the thought about if I'd ever return. Winter soon became spring, and spring began to give way to summer. We listened to the long Sunday meeting where people we highly respected and loved were publicly corrected. Meetings were a blur and full of emotion. Families would learn their father was condemned. Wives would lose husbands. Mother would lose sons. No one was allowed to miss a meeting. If we couldn't be at the building, we had to call in. The whole community was in mourning as so many families were hit with a loss worse than death. Everyone was affected in one way or another. I still don't understand why he did this. I do not get it. 2 houses down were a family of 2 sisters who married the same man. One day, their husband disappeared. They were loaded in a van and brought back to Short Creek. It had been close to a year since they heard anything from him. These women asked for an explanation and were told nothing. They had no idea what he did, and the bishop told them to simply carry on. Richard's little brother Aaron was married to Warren Jeff's daughter Shelley. They lived in one of the triplexes, so Shelley and I got quite close. Aaron and Shelley had no children and were attached to my 2 little girls. Violet loved Aaron, who spent more time with her than her own father. We got our needs at the storehouse across the way. We were required once a week to write a letter to the prophet in prison. I wouldn't do it. Aaron gathered them and sent them off. Lizzie spent her day writing, and her letters were so thick that the envelope could barely close, where I rushed at the last minute and was lucky to get half a page. When Lizzie got to go back and I didn't, I thought I better write more, except I never knew what to write. I got a message from Warren Jeffs in prison. Thus saith the Lord, my daughter Sarah is guilty of holding on to people of her past after I told her to leave them alone. Sarah uses her time to think about what she's missing with her children. She used her time of preparation to go back to the flesh pots and thus missing the boat. Sarah should leave her and her husband's family and focus on returning to the redemption of Zion. She's being punished because she ain't give up them kids. A hopeless feeling overwhelmed me. Will I ever be good enough? I was sick to my stomach with self-doubt. I must be so blind I cannot see myself. I poured my soul out to this God who was so displeased with me. Rich avoided conversations with me. When he did, he talked to me about Janetta getting messages from the prophet, and he was proud Warren took a special notice to her. You disgusting man. Why would you be proud that the guy who assaulted your wife, and you're aware of it, is sending messages to your daughter? And he's in jail being accused of violating other little girls. And you're happy that he's taking a liking to your child? Why does he even need to write your child? He thought of her as a granddaughter. Yeah, right. I was once again grateful to at least talk to my children. When I returned, I didn't want to be a stranger to them. I had a phone since I knew all the secrets of Zion. Way too many times when one of my sister wives would answer my call, somehow they couldn't find the children. Finally, I asked Wretch if Janetta could listen for the phone at a certain time of day so I could actually talk to them. One evening, I was talking to my 5-year-old Isaac and was shocked to hear him sniffle back tears. From his young age, Isaac seldom let himself show weakness. Before letting himself cry, he'd slide his lower back jaw back and forth. I could picture him doing it now, but I knew he was crying despite himself. Mother, I really, really need you to come home. When will you be here? His voice broke, and I couldn't put my arms around him while he cried. My heart broke into 1,000 pieces. I can't sleep one more night without your back rub, Mother. There's no one here to give me my back rubs when I can't sleep. No one to clean the wax out of my ears or put medicine in them when they hurt. I can't be a happy little boy if I don't have a mother. Oh, my goodness. If I was her, that would have broke me. Do you know how long it's been since you kissed me goodnight? How could I explain something to my child when I didn't understand it myself? Oh, well, son, your father and the prophet won't let me come home. It's because I'm not good enough. I'm not as good of a person as your siblings' mothers. I couldn't say that. Baby, I promise the first chance I get, I will rush home to you. I rub your back every single night. I'll kiss your face until you beg me to stop. I'll make your ears so clean they'll shine. I wash your hair and massage your scalp till it tingles. Son, my voice faltered. Till then, I need you to remember I love you to the moon and back forever. Every night you miss me, look at the brightest star and say a prayer, and I will send you my love. My heart wraps you up and keeps you warm. I'm always praying for you. I still have the kiss you blew me, and I carried it all the way with me everywhere. His little voice pondered out loud. Okay, I'll keep doing it, but I don't know how much longer it will work. I love you. Mother Natalie said I have to hang, and then the line was lost. A pang of agitation threatened to overwhelm me. His little voice, 9 months and 2 days, I was left there to cry my eyes out. Late one September night, somewhere after 12 a.m., I was at the storehouse with Shelley, and some of Warren's family were there. I was supposed to see them. Among the women were a couple younger girls. Why were they with Warren's family? They couldn't have been married. One was close to my own daughter's age. Shelley, who were those girls with your father's family? They were put under those mothers and are part of father's family now. They're in town for the orthodontist. Hallie hasn't seen her parents once since she went to Zion 2 years ago. I thought her family lives right down the block. Oh, they still live there. That's the part that is hard. To know your family so close and yet you're not allowed to see them just because this man says you can't. I was confused, but I knew I should stop asking questions. Secrets were held very seriously, and Shelley could be in trouble for what she said. A couple hours later, it still bugged me. It started as a general annoyance of someone spilling a secret. Now it tugged at me for reasons I couldn't quite place. It was like entering a room and forgetting why you entered it in the first place. Whatever it was, it would not leave me alone. Even as I was trying to get some sleep, sleep eventually overcame me, and soon dreams. In my dream, I returned to South Dakota, but not to the home I lived in before. I stood alone in what was known as the bishop's house. The large log home was silent. I followed the light at the end of the long hallway. As I drew closer, I heard voices. No one noticed me as I entered the room. I took in the sight of my family, feeling a thrill of excitement to finally be back. After scanning the room, I realized 12-year-old Janetta was missing. Rich was in his large recliner, one foot in Lizzie's lap and the other in Natalia's. Julie was behind his chair, rubbing his shoulders, and Mara sat at his side, holding Richard's hand. The children sat around the large family room. Everyone talked happily. Where's Janetta? No one looked at me. I repeated the question and walked across the room. Where's my child? Where my children play? Y'all, I'm making up words. I repeated the question and walked across the room where my children played. I went to pick up my son, but my hands went straight through his body. What? I reached out with the same result. Panic swelled inside me. I hurried past the children to where Rich was talking in low tones to his other wives. Where is Janetta? They continued chatting as if I wasn't there. A noise behind me made me turn. It is the Lord's will. You will never see Janetta again. She belongs to me. You are always a distraction, and the Lord showed me you had to be dealt with so I could continue my control over Rich. The prophet's smile grew and his laugh pierced the room. You know what is your body has this way of just telling you sometimes when people aren't right. And she's having these moments where she's feeling that something isn't right about Warren Jeffs, and it's coming out in various ways. And the fact that he has been writing her daughter is causing her body to obviously have some type of response. I woke up in a cold sweat. A sick feeling came over me and I wanted to throw up. I flew out of the bed and went into the bathroom, bracing myself at the sink as the room began to spin. The letters, the messages. I thought he saw her as a grandchild because he saw Rich as a son, but I was wrong. The feeling I had for the past little while, what Shelley said, and the last piece of the puzzle, the dream, it fell into place. Warren was preparing Janetta to be his wife. If I was a mom, and Warren should know better, not Warren, Rich should know better because his sister was taken. This man is taking interest in your daughter and you don't think something's odd about that. You so blindly loyal that you don't think something's odd about this. And you know what he's done to your wife, who in this book is called Mara, who we know is Rachel. You know that he assaulted her when she was a child. You know, oh no, I can't make any excuse for this. Rich knows what that man is capable of. And he's okay with this? What's wrong with Rich? I couldn't hold back the vomit. Splashing cold water on my face, I reached for the towel. Now I had plenty of confession to write in my weekly letter. It was not a letter of humility. It was not a spiritual testimony. The letter was one of a mother who felt her baby threatened. This was a letter of rebellion. I'll be damned if I stand by and sweetly submit. I confess how I would never be okay with letting anything happen to my baby, no matter what the cost. Good for her. Let's put this into context. She didn't tell us what year this was, but the chapter before this was 2010, right? This is a picture, Janetta with Warren Jeffs in 2005. Do y'all see how little she is in 2005? And what may be seen as an innocent thing where he's just holding her isn't so innocent when you're talking about a man who is guilty of the things that this man is guilty of. What? Ooh. It's a long chapter. I was going to stop here, but I can't do that to y'all. Because I might have to do it to y'all. My water's low. Because the last one was like 40 minutes and we only had the 30s. Okay, here we go. Chapter 26, Stay or Go. October 6, 2011. A week later, I got the call to return to my family. I sensed some big changes in the future and needed to be ready. Someone I'd seen years ago, but couldn't quite remember, picked me up at midnight. The Escalade coming to stop woke me up. It was early dawn. We weren't in South Dakota. We were at my new home in Wilderness by Durango, Colorado. There was one log home in sight. The buildings had been built by someone else long before 2003 when R1 began. We pulled up to my new home. My children remembered me, and we shed excited tears together as they gave me the reunion I dreamed about. The crisp morning air hit me as I stepped into the stillness. The sun hadn't risen yet, and I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. I was with my family. I could kiss my babies as I got them ready for the day. I bundled up to travel to the other house and joined the rest of the family for morning prayers and reading. Thank you, God, for giving me this moment. I would be perfect, so nothing could get in my way. A slight noise behind me made me turn. Before I knew it, hands reached out and grabbed me from behind. An overwhelming excitement took hold as the man I loved wrapped his arms around me and planting a loving kiss on my neck. Could my life be any more perfect? They just forgive him so easily. We walked hand in hand down the rugged pathway which led to the main house where most of the family lived. We were more relaxed with the celibacy commandment. There was still no intercourse, but hugs were back, and so we was snuggling and an actual kiss instead of emotionless pecks. We even did those things in bed, but Rich always put a stop to anything if it felt like we got too comfortable. He knelt to pray with our family. My eyes met each one. A feeling of love arose in my chest. What an exciting start we'd have in beautiful Colorado. As the morning moved on, I planned what I'd make for lunch and dinner for the family and hungry work crew. The day went by fast, and before I knew it, I finished making supper. A feeling of accomplishment arose as I looked upon the beautiful spread of fried chicken, potatoes, fresh dinner rolls, a green salad, and for dessert, fresh apple pie with homemade ice cream. I scurried off before the men arrived at the dinner table since I'd be rebuked for being in the same room with the work crew. Rich would be pleased with the delicious feast as he always was. I walked from the men's apartment and headed to the cookhouse looking at my watch. If you hurry with the dishes, we'll go on the four-wheeler and I'll let you take me on the tour of a property, I said to the girls. They hurried to clean the kitchen. I sat down for the first time that day. Mara handed me a refreshing Dandy Blend shake. We're craving French fries. Do you want some? Mara asked as she headed down to the other house. Sure. Make enough for me. I'll be down as soon as I finish my tour. I made arrangements with the ladies to take the older girls for no longer than half an hour. We piled onto the ATV. We heard about this. Isaac brought out Louisa. Can we go? It was hard to disappoint them, but I promised next time. The four older girls piled on. I gave in to the pleading eyes of my baby girl and sat her in front of me. We drove slowly and took in the beautiful scenery of our new home and the great outdoors. Okay, which way should I go now? Right or left? I asked. Left, left. The path scared me. I was reaching the extent of what my adventurous self felt comfortable doing, but it was too late to turn around. I thought of leaving the ATV, walking home, and telling Rich to come get it. Mother Lizzie always brings us down this path. I need to stop being a scaredy cat. Girls, get off the ATV and meet me at the bottom of the rocky hill. I rolled the four-wheeler down to the bottom. The girls began to climb back on. Wait, let me get over this rock before you get back on. The rest was a blur. As they jumped off, I felt the weight of the monstrous machine flipping over. Oh, God, help me. The crushing. My bones caved. There's no way I could live. Okay, so Rachel thought that she was riding on it. She actually wasn't riding on it when the accident happened, which goes to show you they still didn't talk about the situation. She was trying to take it down. I couldn't stay conscious under the pain. Blackness. My children, is everything okay? I fought to regain consciousness long enough to make sure. Oh, the pain. It was easier to leave. I tried to wake up, but nothing cooperated. There were people around me, standing in the air. They were familiar, but I didn't recognize them. They reached out to take my hand, but all I could think about was my children, crying cries of pain or fear. The presence beckoned me. Give me your hand. I saw my body on the ground. I couldn't give my hand if I wasn't in my body. I struggled back to reality. Oh, the pain. How can I bear it? It felt better to be outside of my body. The presence of loved ones is there. Though I didn't see their faces, my heart knew them. Oh God, I can't leave now. I need to be with my children. Please, God, don't let me die. I serve you for the rest of my days if you give me this chance to live. Where's Richard? I couldn't find strength without him. I felt his touch and peace filled my heart. As long as he could help me through this, I could do this. Lights in the distance. I was in a deep, dark hole. People were above me calling my name, whether they were the unknown family members of those in reality or those in reality, I wasn't sure. Panic struck as Rich touch left. Don't leave me, I wanted to scream. Someone else touched me. It sent shocks of pain through my body. They were trying to move me. Whatever you do, don't move me. Oh, the pain. I cannot bear it. I cried out for Rich and felt his reassuring presence. Queen Sarabi, don't leave me, sweetheart. You're going to be okay. The pain was unbearable. I wanted to scream at them for touching me. Please don't move me. It hurt. Make the pain go away. I saw lights and heard voices. Sarah, can you hear me? Stay with us. You're going to be okay. Hello? Hell no, I'm not going to be okay. For God's sake, put me down. The real question is, are you going to be okay? I'm pretty heavy, I heard myself say. A chuckle broke through the horror of the lights and sirens, and unconsciousness came again. I heard voices far away. The first thing I remember seeing was a man beside my bed. I tried to focus. My heart knew the man. There were so many cords and something in my mouth I wanted to pull out, but my body wouldn't obey. I felt so much pain, but couldn't tell where it was coming from. Where am I? What's happening? Who am I? I felt an extreme feeling of danger. Something important is missing. It was so difficult to open my eyes. Why can't I open my eyes? The pain. I could sense something standing by my bed, then nothing. Warm, familiar love pressed against my cheek. Tears dripped onto my face. A nurse stepped into the room and began to fuss over me, followed by another nurse. I wanted to talk, but nothing in my body seemed to work. How was she doing? It was a female voice far above me. Has she stirred at all since the last time? Has she responded to your voice? I started to climb out of the space of darkness. No. Is it normal for her to be out this long? That voice, I love that voice. I'm not sure. Keep talking to her. Make sure you're here when she comes to. It is important she sees you. I fought to no avail and slipped back into the darkness. Sarah may not be the person she once was. She had a significant amount of brain injury. It's normal for people to come out of a coma confused and scared. You need to reassure her that she's safe and we are here for her. Tears of frustration rolled down my cheek. I had no control of my body. Why could I not communicate? I wanted to say I was fine and to let me come out of here. I remember being in a space of darkness. The battlegrounds were my subconscious choice, life or death. There were times I recall looking down and seeing my body hooked to machines with a tube in my mouth. Doctors and nurses came and went. Machines beeped. Where are my children? What's happening? Are they taking me from them again? A light in the darkness and a pathway beckoned me to follow. As I floated towards the light, I heard voices. I turned to see my family calling for me. Sometimes I was half aware of the doctors and nurses as they fussed over me, poking me. I saw my family all together. My children watched and waited. I saw Richard flirting with the other ladies and seeming to not remember I was lying at death's door. It made me want to fade into the light, offering happiness and peace. My eyes returned to my children. My work here was not done. I needed to stay for them. Why were people holding me down? I didn't realize I was fighting against them. Richard, help me. Make them stop. Who are these people? Richard whispered in my ear as he held my hand. He always calmed my soul. I returned to the black unknown. My nose itches. I needed to scratch it, but couldn't make my hands move. Do I have arms? Slowly, I opened my eyes. My right arm was in a huge, bulky brace. Something thick and soft was around my neck, and I couldn't turn my head. I was in a hospital room. I turned to see Rich, his face unshaven, sitting on a chair at the side of my bed. His head was tipped back, his mouth slightly open, and his eyes closed. I watched my husband and tried to make sense of the situation. What happened? Where am I? I felt so confused. Did I have surgery? I wanted to sit up. I wanted to get away. My body no longer obeyed what I was telling it to do. There was no feeling in my legs, and I began to panic. Rich opened his eyes and jumped up. His hands took mine, yet I felt nothing. I was a mother, so where are my children? What are they doing to me? Why do I feel like someone is keeping my kids from me? Is this another trick to take them away from me? I fought to get loose. 3 nurses held me down, and Rich whispered in my ear again. I fought no longer and slipped into the darkness. The last thing I remember was seeing the nurse injecting something into the IV. Despite my fighting, remained in my arm. The next time I came to, I didn't have as many cords, and they removed the tube from my mouth. I wasn't afraid, but the pain. That's why she couldn't speak, because she had a tube down her mouth. Tears rolled down my chest, and tears rolled down my cheeks as my husband sat at the side of the bed holding my hand. Why couldn't I feel his touch? I tried to speak, but no words came out. My hands were strapped to the hospital bed frame. As I explored further, I saw my legs were also strapped to the foot of the bed. There was a pulsating sound somewhere around my calves. Why can't I feel the pulsing? The only thing my mind knew was the man that I love was with me. I chose to stay with my children, and I had to fight for it, no matter how much my body wanted to give up. I fought towards the light. There were people I should know and trust. Something inside me felt they were the enemy. Nothing was safe. They all whispered and pointed, laughing at me. Even Rich ignored me as I held up my hands, pleading for his help. The next few weeks, I'd fight against all odds to return to the woman I was less than a month ago. I succeeded in the fight for my life, but this was only preparing me for an even bigger fight, a fight for my soul. Warren told me I offended God greatly because of the accident. Outsiders came on sacred lands, and the Lord would surely punish me. This is why she got blamed and Rachel got blamed, because Rachel's the one who said that we need to call the paramedics. I've been home from the hospital close to 3 months and working on ignoring the headaches and fogginess. Rich signed me out of the hospital despite medical advice. She had, I can't remember what they're called, but there are concussions that can last for months up to a year. I have a friend that got trampled upon, and she still has lasting effects from that. And it was over a year ago at this point, where she can't, like, her depth perception is off, and she gets really bad headaches and things of that nature. And you sitting here saying, let's bring her home. It's ridiculous. Rich signed me out despite advice. Rich kept me close by, having me be his secretary, keeping up on books and accounting. It was the first time he asked me to do something like this since he married Mara. I was surprised, but glad to stay close to him after the long absence. That was because he was mad at Mara. I definitely felt some tension, but in a sense, I was so busy feeling special that I paid little mind to it. The work couldn't keep me busy enough. If I allowed myself to be weak, I might lose everything. My mind repeated what Richard told me when I first came to R1. You aren't here because you're worthy. You are here because the Lord and his prophet are merciful. They are no longer going to exert patience. You will lose everything if you displease the Lord in any way. These are the words of your prophet, and he commanded me to tell you personally. At times, I wish Richard agreed to having home health nurses. I was on oxygen, and my chest was still purple, green, and gray. My arm was in so much pain and had an ugly, bulky splint. I couldn't hold my babies. Louisa wanted to nurse, but it was impossible. During my last stay in the hospital, Julie had grown attached to Louisa and vice versa. I knew she'd be cared for, and it gave me much peace. My current record-breaking speed of getting dressed by myself was 32 minutes. Wow. To put on my bra. I was grateful I could still move and push myself hard. I cooked all the meals again except breakfast, but Rich also assigned someone to help. It wasn't easy. It's taking you 32 minutes to put on a bra and you worried about cooking? Uh-uh. In many ways, I felt like a 16-year-old girl falling in love again. Richard was so sweet and patient with me. He must have realized how much he loved me with how close he was to losing me. He slept with me most nights. He stopped spending the night with most of his wives since he lived a life of celibacy. After Rich learned the art of drawing the line, he'd give hugs, snuggles, and light kissing. I felt safe in his arms and knew he wanted to be there too. He confided in me and tell me his struggles to live up to his responsibilities and how part of him wanted to fade away and go back to be a husband and father. He told me about the correction that resulted in the public rebuke and leaving South Dakota for R1, Colorado, land of refuge. He was Bishop of South Dakota and responsible for all the people there. When they came to confess, he decided if they were worthy of higher law. One man confessed he saw and became suspicious of certain actions done in Texas temple between Warren and young girls. Warren used the word of God to perform acts that made this man question the righteousness of the prophet years before he was taken into prison. Rich was soon after named Bishop of R1. So it wasn't just his wife who told him. It was another man who also said something. That man gets in trouble and Rich gets promoted. My head about exploded. I couldn't make it down to class for the 5th night in a row. I barely got the meal on the table before I was done. Rich had been kind and patient with me until last week. Rich, could you rub my back and neck? It's been seizing up. My migraine is worse than usual. He looked at me agitated. Sarah, I can't keep babying you through this. I have other things besides you to tend to. He walked off, leaving me in shock. What did I do to make him frustrated at me? After that, I did my best not to bother him. I put my nose to the grindstone to prove my worth, no matter the physical pain. Mom, why did Andrew get held back? Janetta asked casually at the dinner table one evening. All eyes fell upon me. I forced myself to casually continue eating. After years of practice, I was able to hide the shock from this information that was new to me. Father and I felt it was a good idea to let him have Mother Julie as his teacher again because she's so good. Inside, I was a whirlwind of anger. Why did Rich make such a decision without including me? I gave him an earful, but gave myself a few hours to calm the whirlwind inside. I still rage hard when I talk to him. Later that evening, Natalie came to me. Mara told me she and Richard made the decision and you didn't even know. No, but I don't want my children to know we don't work together in decisions of such magnitude. Sarah, you amaze me. How do you always have such composure? You're a beautiful example and I look up to you. She gave me a hug and we carried on, me seething inside and extra alert to the eyes watching me closely to see me show weakness. Later that night, I managed to tell Rich a private good night. Why didn't you consult me about holding Andrew back? His arms dropped from around me. Why do you question me so much? Just accept I know best and stop undermining my authority. He sounded disappointment. I have kept the peace all day, and now I'm asking for a simple explanation as a mother to our son. Can't we have a conversation as parents? Yours is not to ask why, but to do or die. That's what I tell myself constantly. Rich tried to be everything the prophet wanted. He received a rebuke for running faster than he was sent. He had been instructed to build a barn, but hadn't been told to start yet. He started anyway and was told to take it all down. Most of it was cement. Because of his over-eagerness, thousands of dollars were wasted. This is the type of stuff I'm saying. This man, Warren Jeffs, got off on torturing people, and they allowed it. Set your house in order was the message from the prophet. I want a weekly letter and a detailed schedule of each one of your wives' lives. Each of your ladies will write a letter about their thoughts and feelings. When I heard this, I asked how I could accomplish this if I still couldn't use my arm. Richard told me to try my best to type it up. I did try, but there was no way. I tell the prophet my personal thoughts and feelings. It's my husband's responsibility to know how I feel, not the prophet's. My head pounded. I felt dizzy and short of breath. I needed to get oxygen and rest before it was time to make supper. Would it displease God if I took an hour to myself? The door flew open and I greeted the children as they came from school. As I went to hug 10-year-old Sarai, I stopped short and hot anger pierced through me. I blinked in hopes my eyes were playing tricks on me. On her cheek was a perfectly imprint of a bright red handprint. It was like a tattoo. Who slapped you? I didn't hide the anger in my voice. Sarai shrugged after slight hesitation. It's nothing. Her silence was enough. My oldest girls would never tell me if it involved another one of Richard's wives. The battle with anger was extreme. I left to be alone, or the real me would march down the hill to the other house and give Natalie a piece of my mind. I'd never strike another child and cringed that my hands were tied. Later that evening, it was obvious Rich had been told. I sighed in relief until, to my shock, Sarai got public family rebuke and was sent to her room until Rich decided she could come back, which ended up being 2 days. Without even realizing it, I was biting my tongue, clenching my fists so tight the knuckles were white and my eyes burned with angry, hot tears. It had been a week since Rich snapped at me. He informed me Mara was taking over my duties as his secretary. He also hadn't been in my bedroom since. To confront him about Sarai would only make it worse. I was already on thin ice and had no desire to fall through and drown in the cold oblivion. This book is making me so mad. The girl then went through a traumatic accident where she was about to die. She comes back, and rather than staying in the hospital like they wanted, rather than getting the rest she needs, she's working. And then she has moms who are slapping her child across the face and nothing's being done. It wasn't bad enough that she got slapped across the face. Then you scold her in front of everybody else on top of that. Come on. I finished the evening meal preparation so I could spend quality time with my children when they came home from school. It was the highlight of my day. My hands were washed and I was drying them when their happy chatter hit my ear seconds before they burst through the door. They threw their arms gently around my still healing body. They helped remind me why I did what I did. Natalie stopped us on our way to my room. You guys are supposed to come with me. Grab your homework and hurry because I'm leaving right now. No, we're not. We're staying with Mother. Sarai turned to me. Can't we stay with you? Yes, you can stay with me. I gave Natalie an inquisitive look. What's going on? Richard said they're to be with me after school from now on. This is the stuff I'm talking about. He never told me that, so until he does, they're staying with me. She turned and walked out, only to return a short time later. Richard wants you to talk to him. He's in the shop. Agitation rose within me. It felt like everyone was pushing my limits to see how long before I get booted again. As I got to the shop door, I turned towards the house and saw Natalie climb in the vehicle with my children and drive to the other house. My real self to take control, full of anger and fury. What? My real self to take control? Yeah, that's what it says. I approached Richard for the showdown. Did you tell Natalie to take my kids after school? Rich didn't look at me, continued to work. After minutes, he replied, when you're here, I can't unite my family because you question every decision I make. Why do you undermine my authority? How could you say that? I have supported you my entire life. All I ask is for communication and to discuss important things happening to my children. No, you want me to check in with you about every choice I make as a priesthood head and then defy me in every step of the way. The hot anger nearly exploded. How dare you say that? You provoke me and give me tests and trials waiting to see me fail. God gives us enough trials, and it is just from day to day life. You know how much it means to me to spend time with my children because you have kept them from me so much. I'm devoting my life to the building of Zion. All I ask in return is for you to leave my children in my care. You tell me you appreciate how I teach my children obedience, respect, and love, but every time I get somewhere with them, you put them in somebody else's care, and I have to start all over again. Anger kept me talking. There were too many things I wanted to tell him. I just don't understand. Can you explain to me so I can understand your train of thought? I want to improve so I can please you and the prophet. I want to be with my children. How is it right that they are being taken away from me? If God intended them to be someone else's children, he would have given them to someone else. I committed to be a mother to my children, not to have someone else raise them. You always say the sins of the children will be on the head of the mother, not the father. If all their sins and weaknesses are going to be on my head, let me be in charge of them so I can have control over that. Jill has constant issues with keeping herself and any children she's with covered. The other day, I caught her pulling Violet's pants down again. It's all because they aren't with me. I've never complained about taking care of my kids, and I stay caught up on everything else you have me do to support and you build up your kingdom. The reality hit of what I just said so boldly to my priesthood head. This would not go unpunished. Richard didn't look at me and was obviously not going to talk. I waited for the repercussions. The fear morphed into anger again. He was giving me the silent treatment. I needed communication and felt like I deserved that much. It seemed I was the only one in my family who expressed herself and listened to other people's feelings. Rich continued to ignore me, using the table saw as he measured and cut the pile of 2x4s. Is this just another challenge you create for me? I've had enough. I'm the only one in this family who's had her children taken away, and for years at a time. I'm the only one who, without question, supported and respected you in front of everyone. She's not the only one who had her kids taken away, though. Interesting, right? She didn't know about Rachel, or in this book, Mara, because they didn't discuss these things. No one can say they've seen me undermine your authority in front of them, even your children. They should see their parents work together to raise them in righteousness and love. They should know we support each other in decisions we make. Why is this too much to ask? I will not satisfy your evil spirit with all these actions. I am the head of this household and your priesthood head. These are my children, and I make the decisions. You are to do or die. Quit rebelling against me. It would have been better if he stabbed me. Would I never please this man? Impulsively, I held up my hand dangerously close to the saw. Take my arm and cut it, Richard. It'd be easier to deal with than what you're doing to my soul right now. He dropped everything and walked off without a word. Please don't leave. If we don't finish this conversation right now, it's going to turn bad. He said nothing as he continued walking. I raced after him. Just tell me, why can't my children spend after school time with me? He continued walking away, and I stubbornly followed him. This is Cody, y'all. He's Cody. I'll be damned before I let this die. He needs to uphold his commitments he made as a husband. As I got closer, movement drew my attention, and in the corner of my eye, I saw Mara walking toward Rich. I stopped walking, defeated. I refused to let any of my sister wives know there was anything but perfect harmony between Rich and I. Rich told me countless times I was the example, and as far as my sister wives were concerned, our relationship had to be perfect. If I showed weakness, they pounced on it and tried to one-up me. My dad told me my pride would kill me one day. Well, maybe this is doomsday. Hot tears of anger and disappointment gathered into my eyes like a storm ready to burst through the clouds. What was my dad's thinking about now? I'm sure he was disappointed in what I did. I retreated to the privacy of my room before I let the tears fall. No one could see me show weakness. For 4 days, I suffered the silent treatment, constantly asking for forgiveness every chance I got, and worked extra hard to do everything I knew how to make it right with my husband. On the 5th day of torture, I felt like something would give. Rich finally accepted one of my apologies. I can forgive you if you continue to show me you're sorry. This is crazy. Let's just hope God and the prophet can. Why does the prophet have to know about this story? If he knows everything, why you got to tell him everything? Richard actually hugged me sincerely and gave me a kiss that didn't feel like kissing a dead fish. My heart jumped in desperation, like a lovesick teenager kind of way, and I let out a big sigh. Maybe things will go back to normal. I was able to use my hand more fully. I even beat my record, getting my bra on in 30 minutes. Life was good again. Rich agreed to me having 2 of my children after school, and they'd trade spots with my older kids every few days. I tried to be grateful, but stubborn demon refused to be satisfied with anything less than it all, and I agreed with her. I forced myself to be optimistic. In some ways, it was nice to spend more one-on-one quality time. It had been 2 weeks since the incident in the shop. I was busy making 23 loaves of bread, 5 gallons of granola, a large batch of cookies, and finishing the preparation for dinner. I had 4 chicken enchilada casseroles, a large green bean salad, and fresh dinner rolls from leftover bread dough. After taking out the last batch of rolls, I slipped the casserole dishes in the oven and stepped back to take pride in my accomplishments. I felt excitement at the thought of how happy Richard would be as the men would sit around this mouth-watering feast and have their snack cupboard full of granola, cookies, and fresh baked bread. I finished filling the last gallon bag with granola, ignoring the pain in my arm and lower back, when the flip phone in my dress pocket began to ring. That's it, y'all. Woo! That was a lot. And we don't have, like, literally, we don't have much further to go. I'm kind of disappointed, y'all, because this is all we got left. Literally. And she still hasn't left. Yeah. So I'm going to probably, what I'll do is I'll do a little research to go with the next video so that it's not extremely short, to see where she is now, since I don't think we're going to get it in this. With this little bit left, like, seriously, what? I mean, hold on. Let me look so I'm not telling you all a lie. Yeah, it's 1 chapter left. That's it. And an epilogue. So you could say 2 chapters, basically. All right. Now for the next book. What we're going to be reading next, because I need a break from the frustrations of the cults, is something that I began. Okay, how do I tell the story? Some of you can log off now. Don't forget to hit the like button, because I know some of y'all don't care, but some of you may want to know. So, some of you all know this, some of you all don't. My family is Jamaican, right? I'm first generation American. And one of the things that we do as a family is we eat what is called black cake, right? So my man, while we were at the house one day watching TV on Hulu, there is this series called Black Cake. He knows about black cake. So he was like, okay, look, it's a series named after something that you like. So why don't we see what this series is about? And us watching series together is kind of tricky sometimes, because he normally doesn't like drama type of stuff. He's more of an action type of person. So I was surprised that we both enjoyed watching it, right? Come to find out that the series is based on a book. So look what I got. This is our next book. It is called Black Cake. Okay. Or as Americans would say, Black Cake. It's by Charmaine Wilkerson. And I'm going to just say that based on the series on Hulu, I think that I'm going to like this book. And I hope that we all like this book. If not, we're going to blame my man. Okay. So this is the next book. In case you guys want to know, I know sometimes I tell you all ahead of time. I've had it for a while now, and I have not opened it or read it, because I was waiting, and I was irritated with Amazon for the way this mess looks right here. I don't like that it's all messed up, but you know, what can you do? Anyways, next book, excited about it. It is lengthy, but we've read books that are even more pages than this. So We'll get through it and we'll do it together. And I hope you guys like it. Thank you so much for your time. This was a lengthy one. Until next time.